Well, most of the time when I come here to interview an entrepreneur, I'm not out to make a real, like, judgment call on his deal. Most of the time, people approach and they bring their laptop and they want to show me something on their laptop, and I say, my rule is no laptops and seldom even a piece of paper, because just trying to, take step number one in terms of establishing a relationship. So most people, as they approach for angel investing, they're going to need coaching. They perhaps are raising money for the first time. It's often a first step for an entrepreneur. So there's a lot for them to learn, and so I'm not interested so much in, really judging their opportunity, as kind of getting a sense for who they are. Well, I just did a presentation a week ago tonight at Pepperdine University in a marketing class, and I was so tickled too. I put together this brand new presentation for them, and I called it Spectacular Disasters and Other Investments I've Made. And so the kids loved it because, I talked about all the train wrecks. When you're an angel investor, they call it the J curve. In the early stage of your investing, career, all you see are failures. It takes years to build a big, successful company. So in the early years, and I've been at Tech Coast Angels 5 years now, I've seen, my share of failures. I told the Pepperdine kids 50% of all of my investments have cratered, which is pretty close to accurate, I'm sure. I have a lot of great companies in my portfolio, so does Tech Coast Angels. Lots of great companies that are still growing, still maturing. And then, of course, we've got new reasons to worry about them now with the economic conditions of the present.
Okay, we know that you have a wonderful career, that you're a great businessman, but what do you do outside of business?
Somebody asked me that question just the other day, and I went something like, let me think, and I still don't have a good answer. Of course, what I used to do before I started Tech Coast Angels, I spent a lot of time shooting dance. I've been a dance photographer for many years. And so, I find a lot of satisfaction, participating in the arts, supporting the arts. That was a great departure. Remember I told you I ran my company in New York and Irvine for 15 years. When that was all over and it had a great happy ending, I knew I didn't want to just jump back in and do more of that. So that was serendipity, The dance photographer, a friend in New York, connected me to the School for the Performing Arts, the high school for the Performing Arts in New York. They needed a dance photographer, somebody to come in and shoot the kids. And what do you know, I had always been an amateur photographer. Now that I had sold my business, I was the first kid on the block to go out and buy those big Nikon digital cameras. So, yeah, I was self-taught. I took a extension, what do they call this? Extension class at UC Irvine in photography. It changed my life and taught me all the things I didn't know about, portraiture and landscape photography. And here I was, newly retired, with lots of money. I was traveling all around the world at whim and doing my photography. And then the invitation to shoot at the school was just terrific. I brought home a lot of gorgeous images. The school went nutty over it. The dancers' mothers all loved the photos. Then I started doing the same thing at UC Irvine. They have a great school of dance. Yes, one of the best in the country. And so what a coincidence, right in my backyard. I often say, but then I correct myself, that I don't shoot that much anymore, but I photograph almost all of my subjects on the podcast. So if you want to see my photography, come to the blog, come to the podcast, and you'll see my portraits. They're printed about the size of a postage stamp, but still, that's what I'm doing these days, is just that. And the website again is thefrankpetersshow.com. So you'll see my photography. I've got links to my dance photography. You have to dig a little bit to find them, but they're there. And you'll get a kick out of that. And then, of course, all the audio interviews, too.
Tell me about your family.
Well, I've got 2 boys. One's a senior in high school, one's in 8th grade, so got a boy going off to college. But he's applying to 11, so that chances are probably good. He'll get in somewhere, and he's excited about that. Oh, he's just a week away. A week from tomorrow, he goes for his Eagle Board of Review. He's a Boy Scout. He's going up for the final test, the Board of Review, an interview for his Eagle Scout rank. So we're all very excited about that. And I know, anyway, that's a giant step for a young man. It's been a long process, and we're all very proud to, I hope he makes it. No, that's the little guy. My big boy, he plays the guitar, and my younger son is the drummer. So we couldn't do this interview at home this afternoon because the drums, they're loud. So yeah, I had a terrific father-son time with my younger son. And the idea came to me because 4 years ago, when my older son was 13, I did a similar kind of trip, different. So this year, I took my son and I, we chartered a sailboat in the British Virgin Islands for 7 nights. We flew down there, got on the boat. I had a captain and a cook on board, and then just the two of us. So it was very exclusive, you know, private, very nice. And we visited a different island every day and snorkeled, swam, chased fish, did everything. We had just a super time. And I had learned, you know, the time that I had spent with my older son, we did a trip to the Amazon, that they grow up from 13 years old. They grow up so fast that, you know, in Boy Scouts, I say a trip like that and then a couple of camping trips and they're off to college. So I knew, anyway, this summer that I wanted to do a trip like that with my younger son.
What is the best question that you've ever asked on your show?
Oh, best question. I do have a kind of a standard question that I ask. And I'm such a linear thinker, you know, I'm a programmer, so there's a first half to my interview and then the second half. And when I get done with all of the who, what, when, where, why questions about the startup, let's say, I like to take some time and talk about the man or the woman more personally, you know, behind the deal or the investor. Because, one, I just learned that many times there are great stories, people that achieve to the extent that they can convince investors in Los Angeles to put $1, $2, or $3 million into their company. They're very credible people. They have accomplished quite a bit. You know, who did you learn from? Who was a mentor? What lessons have you learned? What advice might you have to those that follow you, that approach and want to raise money? Those are all great questions that sometimes, you know, you get, you know, really genuine, resounding responses from. But I didn't dream that up myself, that little strategy. It just happened to me one day. One of my very favorite early interviews, Dean Alexopoulos at the Henry Samuel A. School of Engineering at UC Irvine. What I thought was kind of the end of the interview was he got up from the table and we shot it in his office. And he reached up, pulled out a book of poetry and started reading some poetry at the end of the meeting. And I could tell, you know, this was a really good interview. And then a few minutes later, he told a really heartwarming story about growing up in Greece with his brother and his mother. And basically his story was how he taught his own mother how to read and write. Well, how to read in particular. And what they didn't know at the time was today she would be diagnosed as dyslexic. So he told that story, and I didn't see it coming. And he told it with such, you know, genuine, you know, humanity came across that I've looked to, in whatever way, maybe not so dramatically, but try to duplicate that, try to really touch, you know, my subjects in some meaningful way, get them to share, you know, what were some of the really memorable experiences in their career or their personal life that have, you know, assisted them on the path that they've taken right now.